Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Supernatural, Beat the Devil. And I overall thought this episode was good in that it advanced the plot going forward, but there were a couple of things that happened in this episode that I would be like, what's kind of going on here? At certain times it felt like the editing was kind of off to a degree. I mean, it didn't make any snap complete cuts, but it's just tone-wise, certain things just kind of were like, what? And it was better when it was just mainly set in the apocalypse world when they were searching for Jack and Mary. So, this episode starts off, and we see everybody kind of like celebrating. They're making fun of Dean for eating so much pizza and everything. Mary is saying how John and her used to call him their little piggy kind of thing. And Dean's just like, give me more pizza. More pizza. And, of course, Sam's trying to have a heartfelt moment with Mary, but then, of course, you're going, well, how did we get here? Is this a flashback or whatnot, or is this a dream? And then it's like, oh, okay, Sam's waking up and it's a dream. So then we get into the meat of the episode, and they're getting ready to open up the rift and all that, since they've only got a day for it. And here's where the clashing of tones kind of starts coming into effect, and it mainly happens here and then kind of within the apocalypse world, mainly with what's going on with Gabriel. Because this Gabriel that we have is kind of different than not in the beginning. In the beginning, he's kind of the same Gabriel that we saw from the previous episodes. Then when he gets in the apocalypse world, he gets kind of more serious. I'm like, okay, this is the kind of Gabriel that I wanted out of this kind of situation. But here, they're getting it ready, and he shows off the grace that he has, which is very small and minuscule. And then we have pretty much just jokes about not being able to get it up and how small his grace was, because he's had his grace drained for years and everything. He was only able to do a small amount. They open up the rift, but then it like goes all bendy and everything, and there's like, okay, that happened. So Sam, Dean, and Cass go out to try and figure out what's going on, and then we get Gabriel and Rowena getting together. And I don't know why this happens. Granted, Rowena can usually do whatever the hell she wants, and Gabriel usually does whatever the hell they want. Even by setting up the thing of like Gabriel trying to prove that he's still Big Boss Archangel, it just comes the bumfuck out of nowhere, and they start eyeing up each other, and they proceed to get jiggy with it. Now, it would be completely kind of fucked up if we get into another Nephilim situation, hereby having an Archangel and Rowena. That would be the most fucking OP son of a bitch ever. And I don't know what the fuck they would do with it. I know Gabriel's grace is part of an issue, but I don't think the writers even truly care anymore, because we get this whole thing. Now, the payoff of this was Cass's, Sam's, and Dean's complete reaction coming to when they're like, oh, we're in the library just doing library things and reading, and just like, Cass's head bowed down. Sam just like, and Dean's gone, I mean, that was hilarious. Joke-wise, the payoff was at least kind of worth it, but I'm like, why? If it's for the joke, okay, but it was the tonal clash of, I wasn't expecting this one out of nowhere, and especially with what we're getting bookend towards the end. So, Sam, Dean, and Cass had come up with the situation that, like, okay, we got to deal with Lucifer, but we can use him for his grace to keep the portal open. Though, granted, they could have also come up with the effect that, yeah, Lucifer's on the loose, and we would kind of have a harder time tracking him. Why don't we just break open a cage and get Adam and Michael out? Because that's another source of Archangel grace, because everybody just kind of seems to forget about that. And I don't mean to harp on a broken point, but I'm going, okay, if you're going to be doing these kind of plot things, be like, okay, there's all these other kind of things as well. So, after we get through that whole Rowena Gabriel situation, they figured out that they need to go and they need to get Lucifer. And I like this scenario to show team cohesion, but then it gets to the thing of there's two kinds of Lucifers in this episode, because he's all distraught and depressed over not being able to feel his son because he's drinking at the bar and the bartender's letting him do everything. He's like, I can't even feel my son anymore and all that. And of course the bartender slips up and says, Jack, he's like, who the hell are you and everything. And Lucifer's about to go do stuff, but of course his drink was spiked and we see that it was Gabriel behind there. I'm like, this is the kind of Gabriel that I like, using this power to really smart and tactically going like, okay. And Rowena shows up and he's like, hey, I killed you. Hey, I killed you too. And they spiked his drink and they were able to get him in a situation that he could capture. One of my favorite parts was he tried to leave the bar, but he came back in, giving me flashbacks of the mystery spot. Probably, it's one of mine, if not my favorite episode of Supernatural, of how nuts and crazy it can be. So I was like, yay for that callback. But they easily capture Lucifer on this, and they take him back to the Men of Letters. You see him kind of flexing at his bonds and everything, and their big idea is to essentially just have Lucifer drip Grace into the bowl. And they even try and make some plot things of like why they didn't kill him, but even those are kind of flimsy. They're like, oh, we'll finish this up, then we'll come kill you. I'm like, no. The biggest kind of portion of this is I believe that plot is driving all of the characters to do all these decisions rather than characters driving the plot. Because a lot of things happen because the plot demands them to happen. Because in this case, I think every character, Rowena, sure as all get out, should have been going, okay, why don't we just freaking take out all this Grace, put it in a jug, every like 24 hours I'll just pour the damn thing in to make sure that the spell keeps up, or like we come up with an interval kind of thing. Because you have Lucifer captured. Because you have Lucifer captured. Because you have Lucifer captured. Take the Grace, kill the dude, be done with it. Now granted, that would cut off a whole line of all other interesting kind of things that you can do with Lucifer. But it would make the most logical sense for the characters and the plot for this to occur. But of course, the writers have their own kind of plot, so they just leave Lucifer drying, and they're the away team party of Gabriel, Cass, Dean, and Sam going to the Apocalypse World while Rowena watches over Lucifer. So they kind of get over it. They are not in the same place that they came out the first time or the second time. Ketch wasn't even talked about in this episode, and he's somewhere fucking around off in there. But they're like, okay, we need to find him. He's going, well, where are we, Cass? He's like, we're in, like, Kentucky. We gotta make it to Dayton. Gotta go that way. Alright, cool. And they're kind of on the road again, doing their kind of stuff. We get Gabriel and Cass kind of talking because Cass is giving him the lowdown on what's going on in heaven, and Gabriel's like, well, I'm a screw-up. I don't know if I'd be that good to lead heaven. He's like, well, maybe heaven needs a screw-up and everything. And I'm like, okay, now we'll have to see if an archangel can create angels or whatnot, because Lord's getting really wishy-washy at this point. Because I don't know if Lucifer would technically... But he's using archangel rules, so I don't know if it's because of God putting him in hell that he couldn't create any more angels, because that would be kind of OP, kind of thing. Or if all archangels can't create angels or whatnot. We'll kind of have to see. But it was kind of cool seeing Gabriel kind of recognize his situation and kind of be a little bit more serious about what's going on with this whole thing. And of course we got Sam and Dean kind of doing their own kind of thing in the back, kind of talking about what's going on. And then they hear some screams off in the distance and they go off to help people. Saving people, hunting monsters kind of stuff. And they take out a vampire, and they're like, what's going on with this one? He's going, well, ever since the angels started taking out humans, they didn't think about what would be happening with monsters. This is what happens when vampires get hungry. And here's the thing. You're going to Dayton? Well, the only way to get through is this tunnel. And granted, we could go around this other way, but it'd take too long, but it's full of vampires. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. The only problem is, a lot of TV shows lately have been going into not like heavy situations, but like where there's a lot of darkness. I went, okay. And now granted, this would have been done pretty well, but I don't know, there just didn't feel like there was much tension. Maybe it was because I wasn't able to see as much, but they're going through, and I kind of like this part. I just wish more had been done with it, or like a whole episode could have been devoted to this kind of thing where they're trying to get through this place to get to the other side. And they see another vampire take it out, even though it's like been gnawing on this group, because these two people they saved had a larger group, and they got decimated down to these two people. So they're kind of dealing off with that. While this is going on, we get to the situation where Lucifer pretty much is annoying the unholy shit out of Rowena, and to get back at him, she tells him that Jack's over there, and everybody goes, oh, okay. And then he's able to break his chains, even though he's been losing grace, and is about to try and kill Rowena, but she force pushes him back into the rift. So I was like, okay, I wonder how Lucifer's going to be used in the apocalypse world at this point. And of course she's kind of freaking out. She's like, oh well, everybody's over there, so I can leave, or I can try and sit down and try and figure out how to keep this rift open. I'm like, oh, and she does do that. I'm like, good, character development. Let's see if that sticks. So they're dealing with all this stuff that's going on. They kind of get ambushed, and we see Sam get his throat ripped open and dragged off. And Cass tried to go after him, but he's like, listen, we don't have a lot of time, so we got to go after Jack and everything. And I like how this was presented for Dean grieving over the death of his brother. The thing is, it's very hard to believe of a death of a Winchester at this point in time when you're like, there's going to be another season and everything. So I liked how Dean was really broken over this. This just confirmed him not wanting to take his family on these kinds of things. And Jensen Ackles did a good job of selling it. That comes in more later on, but they get through the cave and go on, and they're able to make it to the encampment. Cass is like having problems because it's worded so well, but evidently it either doesn't work on Archangels, or Gabriel's so low juice he's able to get up and just take out the warding. Everybody comes in, and of course Mary comes in. She's like, oh, everybody's here. And she goes up to Dean and she's like, where's Sam? And then of course Dean starts crying, and it's hard, man. It's like, that was a good show of Dean being truly upset that his brother is dead. But of course we then switch back and we see that Sam is in this kind of place, and he's alive. And you're thinking, at first, I thought that the cast that was with the group was potentially Lucifer. Like, he'd somehow gotten to a point where he'd gotten there fast enough that he changed himself to look like Cass and just told him to get out of there, and that Cass would have found Sam. But this was another kind of interesting scenario. He's like, well, I brought you back because I want to have a relationship with my son. And Sam's like, well, what if I don't go along with your plan? And he goes, well, they're all there. And then we see all the vampires chomping at the bit together. He's like, I can snap my fingers and they'll just take you out. And he's like, fine, alright, I'll go. So we then get back to the encampment, and we see them giving the information to Jack, and he is really distraught that Sam is dead. And we had seen Rowena throw this in Lucifer's face, that he has 3 wonderful fathers already, and he'll never accept you. And seeing that, yes, Jack does believe that these guys are his father and like are very important to him, he's very upset that Sam is dead. And Jack did a good job of showing that. Now granted, he wasn't to the full emotion that Dean was. He was showing more anger at everything, going like, why didn't you bring him back? Why didn't you do all this stuff? And I'm like, dude, you could do this stuff too. Then of course, we then get towards the end of the episode, and we see that Sam and Lucifer come up. And everybody's like, oh crap. And of course the shit-eating grin that Lucifer has on is just par on course. And he also set up an interesting scenario of saying, you need me to defeat Michael. Because on his way to finding the group and to finding Jack, he had eaten some angels to replenish his grace. So he's pretty much in top form. So that leaves us into a pretty interesting place of where it is. I do feel that more plot dictated where our players were than characters. And I kind of got the feeling that there's some things that need to be tied up, specifically like the Heaven and Hell storyline. That needs to be a focus going forward, because we've now gotten into a place where there isn't really anyone in control of heaven, and the last person that was in control of hell, Asmodeus, is dead. Who's in control of those two realms? No one, really. And I don't like this theory that I'm coming up with, but I start getting this kind of feeling that we might potentially be going into a scenario where instead of Sam and Dean going out like the two hunters that they are, which I would rather prefer, like we get into a scenario where everyone's brought back from the dead, they do one last kind of hurrah thing, DBZ kind of style, and they kind of go out with a blaze of glory. That's what I would prefer, but I'm getting the feeling that since everything's getting down to kind of a bare bones kind of thing with like the two realms, that what if potentially Sam and Dean are being put up to potentially them both splitting up the duties, or one taking control of heaven and one taking control of hell. I don't like that scenario. I don't know why I have that feeling, other than it feels like everybody and their mother is getting taken out in these places, and some kind of balance has to be struck. I don't care if that means Gabriel's got to take care of heaven. I don't care if that means they have to make sure that Lucifer's kind of on the loose to take care of hell. But for some reason, I get this feeling that they're going to try and essentially do the thing that was going on with the Apocalypse scenario of like Dean being Michael, Sam being Lucifer, and them potentially having to deal with taking control of these realms. I honestly don't know why that theory came into my head, and I don't really like it, but it's something to kind of discuss because I don't know what these writers are doing. I don't understand the end goal that they're trying to go for, because this season in particular has been very bad in being a cohesive kind of understanding of where we're trying to go. It's like throwing all of these separate things together and thinking that they will gel. And they have not, and I don't know where this is trying to go for an endgame goal for Supernatural. Now granted, I would love this theory to be just nothing but a crackpot theory that just freaking came into my head and I can just kill it like the rest. They could make Jack a Messiah kind of thing. He takes over everything, kind of ends it up, and be like, okay, cool. But I know that that's probably not going to be the case. So, those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.